So good morning and welcome to this week's Breakfast with Mike. And this week we're going to answer a question. Every seller has this question. Every single time you're on a listing appointment, whether they say it or not, they have this one question. And the one question is, why should I list my home with you? That is the one question they want answered. And I'm here to tell you, it's probably not what you think it is. When you start telling them, well, I'm a nice person, I'm really good, I'm honest, I'm gonna put your house in the Wall Street Journal. I mean, all the cliches is not what they want to hear. They want to know what separates you, and they want the answer to one question. Why should I give my money to you? What are you going to do? Specifically, what are the things you do that others don't? That's what they want to know. And I'm going to share with you how you can separate yourself. And believe me when I tell you, it's not open houses. It's not your website that, you send everybody to that nobody goes. Okay? It's not any of that stuff. I want to give you one thing right now. Before I get into this, I want to give you one thing right now to pay attention to as I do this, okay? If you can take your name off of whatever you give them for an answer, if you can take your name off and put somebody else's name on it and it still works, then it doesn't work. And I'll explain that to you in more detail as we go. So my first thing when I sit down with a seller, after I've had the initial phone call and now I get to the house, before I go looking at the house, I want to explain to them how the night's going to go. I learned that one from Floyd. It's called How I Work. May I explain to you how I work? I've got some of you know this, I'm having my hip replaced later this month, and I've had to go through a series of tests. And every single time I go in there, they start out by telling me, they'll say, let me explain to you what we're going to do today. That's their definition of, here's how I work. Every profession does it. When you think about it, every profession does it. You go to the dentist doesn't just start drilling. They tell you, okay, I'm going to give you a little shot of Novocaine. You're going to feel like a little pinch, blah, blah, blah. And they go through the whole thing. That's what we want to do. So when you get there, sometimes sellers are going to say to you, let me show you the house. And you have to be stronger and avoid that. Yeah, we'll get there, I promise. But could we sit down somewhere so I can explain to you how I work? And now, no matter where you go, doesn't matter where you go, let's pretend it's the kitchen table. That's the best place because that's where decisions are made. So you go to the kitchen table and you start by, okay, let me explain to you how I work. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to make sure that what we talked about on the phone is exactly what you're looking to accomplish. So that'll be the first thing we'll do. After I've asked you a few questions, then we'll go look at the house. I know you wanted to show me right away, but trust me, I know what I'm doing. Now I'm going to ask you for a favor while I'm looking at the house. I mean, I could go look at the house and point out all the positives, and trust me, I'll point out the positives that I see, but I need your permission to also point out the negatives. What are the areas that need some attention? You've been living here now for a long time. You probably don't even notice them, but I will. I need your okay. Can I share those with you as well? Well, yeah, okay. Once we've looked at the house, we'll come back here. I will show you exactly how I get homes sold. Well, what about the price? We'll get there, I promise. Let me ask you a quick question. If you knew that I've never had a listing sell, like ever, never, not one time have I ever taken a listing that it's sold. Would it really matter what price I tell you if you know my system doesn't work? Well, no. Okay. Then let me show you the system. And if you like what you hear, then we'll talk about the money. I'm assuming money's important to you, considering you jumped in with it. Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Well, I promise you, if we don't agree on a price, I'm not going to try to force you into anything. This is a mutual decision. If I feel I can help you and you feel I'm the right person, great. That's what we'll do. If not, we'll part friends. Fair enough? Great. Then let's get into the questions. And then I'm going to get into all those, all the questions about the listing part of it. Then I'll go look at the house. And when I come back, I'm going to start out the same way every single time. I think Floyd used to have a term for it. We used to call it nimwits. No matter what they say, nimwits. I don't care what they say. I'm always going to start the same way. So when I come back from looking at the house, I'm going to start the same way. And it's going to go like this. Well, I like what you got here. I know I can help you to sell. As a matter of fact, if we decide to do business together, two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to move. And number two, you're going to net more with me than you could with anyone else. I know that's a strong statement, but those are the two things that are going to happen. Could I share with you how I get homes sold? Well, yeah, okay. Now, if you read anything in my pre-listing package, you saw that I do all the things that all the average agents do. I put it in MLS, put up a sign, lockbox, open house, the whole 9 yards. And we'll talk about those in more detail. But that's what everybody does. The scary part is that's successful about half the time. As a matter of fact, I did some numbers recently, and the success is like 47.2%. 47.2% of the time. Just putting it in MLS and hoping it's going to sell works. That's kind of scary, but that's the market we're in. I don't do things that way, and I don't think 47% is a good enough number. My system works 89% of the time. Let me explain to you what separates me. Okay? The first thing I'm going to do, if we decide to work together, is I'm going to reach out to my agent base, my buyer agent network. Now, these buyer agents are the best buyer agents in the area. They work with the best vendors out there. They work with the right home inspectors, the right attorneys, the right title companies, the right mortgage people. You're sitting there, you're going, well, what's the right one? Well, there's some mortgage people out there right now. I'm not sure why they're in business because they never seem to loan any money. They're always saying no. And most of the time, it's because the buyer wasn't qualified. Well, the buyer agent network, the people I work with, they don't work with buyers that can't get a loan. Matter of fact, they get them approved in advance. I know you're saying, well, I've got a pre-approval, but the chances are you don't. You've got a pre-qualification. There's a difference. And some mortgage companies, they use those words for both sides. It's just not true. But these guys, they truly get a buyer approved, subject only to the appraisal of the house. So I reach out to them. Matter of fact, if we decided to do business today, you could look outside your window as I'm walking away from you. I'm probably already on the phone with some of those buyer agents. I'll probably call half a dozen of them before I even get back to the office. And the conversation will go something like this. I just walked out of this house. We're going to put it on the market. It's going to be a few days before it goes active. It's got this, it's got that, it's got this. Who do you have? That's how I start the conversation. And if they say, well, I'm not sure how quickly I can get them in, don't worry. You already know I'm making another call right after I'm done with you. What am I doing that for? I'm trying to put urgency into this. Better call your buyer and get them in now, or it's not going to be there in a couple of days. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. Okay? I'm going to reach out to these guys. I'm going to tell them about your house. I kind of fib a little bit. I might do a couple of days in purgatory for this, but I'm okay with it. Because some of them will try to set up showings, like one of them wants to look at 4, one of them wants to look at 5, one of them, and I tell them, well, that's not going to work. 4 will work, but the guy at 5, I got to get him to come in at 4, and the guy that wanted to come in at 2, I got to get him to come in at 4. So next thing you know, I got 2 or 3 people showing the house at the same time. Guess what? It creates urgency. Because they start looking at it going, did you see the way they're looking at our house? It's not yours yet. You haven't even wrote an offer. But anyway, that's going to be the first thing that I do. Has anybody else you've interviewed mentioned doing anything like that? Well, no. They just put it in MLS and hope somebody sees it. To me, hope is not a strategy. If that doesn't work, I will go looking for the agents that have homes under agreement right now in your price range. Now, I know what you're saying. Why would you do that? But see, I know something you don't. In a normal market, we have about 8% fall through. Deals fall apart for whatever reasons, about 8% of the time. In the market we're in right now, that number is close to 25%. Now, you might be saying, well, why is that? But there's so little inventory in MLS that these guys are thinking they need to write a higher offer to get their offer accepted, and then they try renegotiating it through the home inspection and other things. And when it doesn't go their way, it falls apart. But there are times when a buyer is in a deal with somebody else and the deal falls apart because of that other seller. And that buyer also has a home to sell. They don't want that deal to fall apart. So I'm calling agents up saying, listen, I know you got something under agreement. I'm about to put something on the market right now. It's very similar to what you have. It's got this, got that, it's got this, it's at this price range. Well, yeah, but we're under agreement. That's what you're going to hear most of the time. But 10% of the time, you're going to hear that agent say, how the heck did you know my deal's falling apart? And by the way, I didn't know. But I call these guys all the time. Well, listen, if your deal's falling apart, I don't know how long this one's going to stay on the market. I can get you in there pretty quick. If that doesn't work, I will call all the agents that have shown properties similar to yours or in your price range from our office. We keep a record of those things. Hey, I noticed you showed Smith Street. Yeah, I'm about to put this on the market. It's got this, got that, it's got this. How soon can we get you in there? If that doesn't work, I'll call all the listing agents that have listings in your price range. You know why? Because they've already been marketing it and they've already had buyers that have called them that didn't buy their listing. So I will reach out to them. Hey, Bill, yeah, it's Mike. Listen, I know you got that listing on Smith Street. Yeah. Have you generated a lot of activity? Matter of fact, I have. Do you have some of those buyers still that you're working with? Matter of fact, I do. Well, I'm about to put this on the market. It's got this, got that, it's got this. It's called proactive. Most agents are passive. They just put it in MLS, put up a sign, they wait for stuff to happen. I won't even get into open houses because most agents don't do open houses for the real reason. They do open houses to get buyers. And that's not, if you told the seller, let me borrow your house for 2 hours, I need some more buyers, they'd probably say no. But we don't tell them that, do we? We say, oh no, we're going to do an open house and get a bunch of people in there, they're going to write an offer. And they don't. Now, by the way, I know in the market that you're in right now, we get a lot of people coming through open houses, and some of it has resulted in some sales. But for the most part, be honest. Why do you do an open house? You're trying to get buyers. Me, I used to do a grand opening every once in a while on listings, but I wasn't trying to get buyers. I was trying to get more listings. That was the difference. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can you see, by the way, through each one of these steps, I'm also going to be closing them, saying, do you want me to use that part of my system for you? What idiot is going to say no? Of course, they're going to say yes. So when I get to this point, I can say, well, listen, you can pick an agent who does everything passively, hopes it's going to sell. And in a lot of cases, it will, but then it'll fall apart. Or you could choose somebody like me who's got a system that's got an 89% success rate and homes don't fall apart. It's up to you. Let me ask you this. If we could agree on a price, would you want me to handle it? If they don't say yes, you don't go into pricing. I'm not there to just do a free CMA for you. My time is more valuable than that. If we could agree on a price, would you want me to handle this? Yes. Good. Let's talk about the money. That's the presentation. That answers the question. Why should I list with you? Because I do things that no other agent is doing. It's not passive, it's proactive, and it has an 89% success rate. Stop telling them some of those silly things you do that everybody else does that really doesn't even work in this market. Separate yourself. Give them a reason why they should list with you. Give them a reason. And don't make it be the same reason that others are, because then you're like everybody else. And if you do that, I think your success rate is going to go through the roof on these listing appointments. I'm going to turn off the recording and I'm going to let these guys ask me some questions. Wish you were here. Maybe next time. Anyway, have a great day. You could always call and reach me if you want to. Let me turn off the recording.